To experimentally determine if compounds are polar or nonpolar is the purpose. Background. Definition of polar molecules. Valence electrons not evenly distributed around a compound. Asymmetry is a sign of polarity. Definition of nonpolar molecules. The charge is specifically symmetric or even. Like dissolve like definition. Liquids that are both polar or nonpolar tend to be miscible in one another. They mix together or dissolve and form solutions. Miscible. Substance dissolves in another substance. Solution. Liquid mixture, minor component evenly distributed through larger component. Design. Write 2 to 5 sentences. How can we determine if different compounds are polar or nonpolar experimentally? What equipment might we use?
Predict. On the diagram to the right, is oil polar or nonpolar, and why? Predict. Based on the diagram to the right, is water polar or nonpolar, and why? Predict. What will happen when you mix the two components together, and why?
Perform. Measure out 10 milliliters of water into your graduated cylinder. Let me get a level. Excuse me.
That's definitely under 10.
No, actually a little bit more. It's 10 exactly.
Okay. So, perform. With the water still in the graduated cylinder, add 20 milliliters of oil.
Really get down. You can put it over there if you want.
Yeah. So I'll go up to 30, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
A little bit more. Stop. A little bit more. Stop. Observe. What did you observe? The oil did not drop down to the bottom of the graduated cylinder. Instead, it rose above the water.
It did not mix.
The water is heavier than the oil. Conclude. Based on your observation, is this oil polar or nonpolar? And why? Or can it not be concluded from the experiment? Include whether this agrees with your hypothesis.
Preform. Add 2 drops of food coloring, 1 drop of each color. Observe. What did you observe?
The food coloring did not reach the water, it stayed with the oil. But it sunk down to the bottom of the oil, and that didn't just stay at the top. Except for that one, but whatever. Perform. Conclude. Based on your observations, is the oil polar or non-polar? And why or can it not be concluded from the experiment? Include whether this agrees with your hypothesis. Predictions.
Perform. Add the tablet. Observe. What did you observe?
First, we observed the the food coloring slowly dripping down to the water, and then the tablets reacted with the water and the food coloring first, and then fizzed it up to the top with bubbles of food coloring. Calculate the electronegativity difference between Na and Cl. Hypothesis. Based on the electronegativity difference, what type of bond forms between them? Is it polar or non-polar?
Predict. What will happen when you mix the salt and water, and why? Predict. What will happen when you mix the salt with oil, and why? Preform. Wait for the reaction from part 1 to end and the mixture to settle. Use a dropper to transfer the oil into a 50 milliliter beaker.
Now we wait.
Use the dropper to transfer the oil into a 50 milliliter beaker.
Olive oil.
Try tilting it a little bit more.
Other oil behind. What do you think there's more?
What?
I think there's more oil. Yeah, there's still more oil on top of that. Unless that's just water. Nope, we're good now.
Okay. Preform. Fill a second 50 milliliter beaker with 20 milliliters of water.
Okay, cool.
You watching it?
With the water or with water in general?
It just says fill a 50 milliliter beaker with 20 milliliters of water. So.
Yeah, it's fine. You're good.
Perform. Add 0.5 grams of salt to both beakers, 0.5 grams each, and stir them. Just close the door real quick. I missed the beaker.
Okay. Here, can I see the second?
Just give me a minute. You go take it.
Observe. What did you notice about the salt water solution? Observe. What did you notice about the salt oil solution?
Stir it first. The salt dissolved.
And the salt is kind of dissolving in the water, not the oil. So the salt isn't
does
being
not
absorbed.
dissolve.
Observe. Based on your observations, is the salt polar or non-polar?
Go back there.
Sorry. So the question was, so the question was, based on your observations, is the salt polar or non-polar? I would say it is polar, because it is dissolving in the water and not dissolving in the oil. Conclude. On your observations, is the salt water polar or non-polar, and why? Or can it be not concluded from the experiment? Include whether this agrees with your hypotenuse predictions. Predict. A main ingredient in nail polish is nitrocellulose. This is what allows for the colorful film properties of nail polish. Is nitrocellulose polar or non-polar? What will dissolve in water and why? Predict. Another major ingredient is alcohol, which allows the polish to dry quickly. Is alcohol polar or non-polar? Will it dissolve in water and why? Okay.
Drop 1 or 2 drops of clear nail polish on top of the water. Before the polish dries, it creates a film on top of the water. It takes just a few seconds, so be speedy. Lay the paper flat on top of the paper into the nail polish and down into the water.
the tree drops.
Make sure to quickly pull it out, lay it out to dry. Be patient, it could take a few tries to get it right.
Okay. Yeah, we got to do that again.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Let's try
A little
one more.
bit. You gotta get another piece of paper, dog. I got a little bit.
Can we have another piece of paper? Because we got it a little bit, but
Yeah, like right there on the edge.
we want to try
Do
it
the other
again.
side.
Oh, okay. It told us to go into the water. Stop. Huh?
Should be rainbowy.
Where is it? Oh, I got some.
So show them. This should be like a little bit of a
See the rainbow on this side right here. And it should be more rainbowy, like at the corner right here.
Guys, need me in my homeroom. Go. Angie, you too.
If the nail polish dries on top of the water, creating a film, simply pull off the napkin and start over. The nail polish will only stick to paper when it's wet. Observe. Once the paper dries, take it into the light and move it back and forth. What do you notice? Conclude. Based on your observations, was nitrocellulose polar or nonpolar, and why, or can it be concluded from the experiment? Include whether this agrees with your hypothesis. Conclude. Based on your observations, was alcohol polar or nonpolar, and why, or can it not be concluded from the experiment? Include with this agrees with your hypothesis predictions. Preform. Google how to origami. Create a bird, frog, raptor, or something with your rainbow paper. Perform. Staple your origami to the front of the slab before you turn it in.